That was a fake one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the Plaquemines Parish Regular School Board meeting. Call to order at 6:04 p.m. This is our regular board meeting on Thursday, June 10th, 2025. Meeting's taking place in our boardroom in room 100 at the Woodland Central Office, 1484 Woodland Highway, Belchase, Louisiana, 70037. Well, now that it's been called to order, let's go ahead and do our invocation and pledge of allegiance so we can kick this off right. Doing our invocation tonight is Coach Fox from Belchase Middle School. I used to teach at Belchase Middle. It was a fun place to be. So, Coach Fox, thanks for joining us and looking forward to this.
Thank you. All right. Everyone stand. Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for tonight. God, I pray that your will would take place tonight in this board meeting. And Lord, I just ask you, God, for your favor upon this parish, your favor upon this leadership of this parish. And God, more importantly, more than an A district, more than anything else, I ask you, God, that every person in this parish, from the superintendent all the way to Head Start, that they would know you, Lord. And God, I just pray for your presence to be upon these people. And I just ask you for your blessing on this board meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, Coach Fox. Ms. Turner, would you do the pledge for us?
Why, of course.
Awesome.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. All right, Dr. Ritz, can we do a roll call and declaration of a quorum?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to do a roll call. District 1, Ms. Darlene DeMall Turner.
Here.
District 2, Ms. Jamie K. Sauer.
Here.
District 3, Mr. Nico Tesfage.
Present.
District 4, Ms. Christy Arbrough.
Here.
District 5, Ms. Michelle Lindner.
Here.
District 6, Ms. Jennifer Shelley.
Here.
District 7, Mr. Bobby Ingraham.
Here.
District 8, Mr. Paul Lemaire.
Here.
District 9, Ms. Jennifer Sanger.
Here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Awesome. All nine of us in the house tonight. That's always a good thing. Board members, just as a reminder, please make sure you have your microphones on when you're talking. Turn them off if you're not talking. I just leave mine on because I talk so much. But whenever you are talking, please make sure that your microphone is on so our YouTube feed is catching what you're saying. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have also 1.04 still ahead of us to approve tonight's agenda. We do have another item to add to the agenda, but I'm gonna ask our legal counsel a question. Mr. Andrew, I want to add an agenda item for the approval of the master plan, which we don't have. We have a presentation of it in 2.01. Do we have to wait to hear that presentation before we can add an action item to approve the master plan, or can we do that now? Perfect. Let's do that right now. So, board members, I would like to hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the addition 4.045, approve master plan as presented. 4.045, approve master plan as presented.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Sanger. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Arbrough. Any discussion? Okay, I'll go ahead and make the statement. The reason we have to do this is because we can't do an action item. We can't have a board vote for something that's in recognitions and or presentations. And since it wasn't something that was declared an action item in committee, we have to move it to the other board action items. So that's the reason for moving that around the way we're doing it and making sure we're all legal and dotting our I's and crossing our T's. Is that okay also, Mr. Andrew? Thank you. Mr. Barr, excuse me. Okay, roll call vote. Okay, well, hold on. Let's see if there's any other questions or comments. All right, hearing none. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
District 1, Ms. Turner.
Yes.
District 2, Ms. Jamie K. Sauer.
Yes.
District 3, Mr. Nico Tesfage.
Yes.
District 4, Ms. Christie Oro.
Yes.
District 5, Ms. Michelle Linder.
Yes.
District 6, Ms. Jennifer Shelley.
Yes.
District 7, Mr. Bobby Ingraham.
Yes.
District 8, Mr. Paul Lemaire.
Yes.
District 9, Ms. Jennifer Sanger.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, tonight's agenda is approved. Thank you, board members. I appreciate that. Let's move on to number 2, recognitions and/or presentations, and we have item 2.01, the presentation of the Plaquemines Parish School Board Facilities Master Plan. Superintendent Ritz.
Thank you so much. If you notice in the audience, I personally invited the school leaders. I thought that for them to come in here, their daily work every day is important, but sometimes they don't know about the details and the work that you're doing and what your ambitions are for this district. So I had asked them to come, and you can see, I have 2 that are out of town, but the other ones are going to be listening on the YouTube video, and they're very anxious and excited. So I want to say welcome to all the principals for coming tonight and taking your time. We appreciate your time being your efforts of being here to support this. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce an organization that all of you are very familiar with. The company is CSRS, and they have been our partners in this endeavor. They have taught us along the way of how to really look at things and making sure we're budgeting things appropriately and that we're being smart in our decisions. They ask good questions of us, as well as telling us what we really should be thinking about as a whole picture. It guides us, and when we talk about, we were fortunate enough to have a windfall, and we want to make sure we're smart with funds. And the board members here, you have the respect. School board members, you have the respect, and because you do things right, and you're smart about making the decisions that are right for kids. So we have a gentleman, Mr. Ed Jenkins. Mr. Ed? Yes, sir. He has been the leader with us in this endeavor, and I'd like to have him take the floor.
All right, Mr. Ed, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you, Superintendent. I want to take a second to thank you all for this opportunity. We came after this opportunity very aggressive. We heard about Plaquemines Parish School District, and now we know what's behind the curtain as a result of performing this master plan for you all. I had a chance to perform master planning for Superintendent Drake. The difference between what happened in East Baton Rouge Parish School System versus what we did for you all is, and Mr. Drake will back me up on this, he'll kick me under the table, is the unity that we saw out of this group. That is the strength of this group, and I don't say that just because we talk about it all the time, is that strength that we see from you all. The governor, the state of Louisiana should be hoisting Plaquemines Parish School Board up as a model for the state of Louisiana, because that is what's going to attract citizens back to the state and stop this influx that's happening at this point. So again, we thank you. We have some young stars here in the audience with us that that now have a real hunger to do master planning as a result of the effort that took place on this. I'm one of the owners at CSRS. I've been here for 19 years. Have done master planning over in Texas and here in Louisiana, and this matches up against anything I've ever seen. So thank you. We were blessed to have this opportunity. And as Mr. Lemaire said to me earlier, this is God's country. So I don't say that just because of fishing. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Drake, and we look forward to the future with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Bill and I'm sorry, Bill, but we weren't one of the young studs, that he's mentioning. Those 3 are Garrett, Brennan, and Adderley, all right? Bill and I are just happy to be here. Hey, look, Ed is exactly right. I've worked with 25 districts in this state, and this district, there's just something about it that just resonates with people, from the coach up here saying that prayer to the principals and leaders of the schools being here. I was a principal for 6 years and an assistant principal in 2 other schools, and superintendent in Zachary for 10 years, and in Baton Rouge for 5 years, and then at the State Department over 19 districts. So I've seen a lot of districts, and I know what good looks like, and this is it. So Superintendent Tesfich, President Tesfich, Superintendent Ritz, and the board, community, and leadership here. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here. So I'm going to sort of give a little snapshot of what I talked about last time. And I know it's going to sound sort of weird. I was watching the movie Patton the other night, okay? And if you like that World War II history like I do. And he was out on that bluff talking about the Carthaginians, and he said, I was there. The reason I'm mentioning that is because he talks about history. He talks about being. He talks about just part of something that's bigger than what we do. My grandmother used to talk to me up in Homer, Louisiana, way up in North Louisiana, and she always said, Warren, choose either a doctor, teacher, preacher. Sorry, Andrew. You know, she didn't mention lawyers. I'm sorry. I know Andrew, so it's okay. So she said, pick teacher, preacher. What was the other one I said? Doctor. So I have cousins in Shreveport who are doctors. My cousin in Austin, Texas, is over Gateway Church there. He was a petroleum geologist and just said, God's calling me. Now, he just retired from the church, and he had like 5,000 members in the church, and he's just an awesome man. And I have doctors, and I'm the teacher, and that's what I do. And here's what I tell them. What I tell them is that doctors do their job, and it's great, and preachers do their job, and it's unbelievable too. But what we do is bigger than what most jobs are. It's bigger than we are. Because what you do leaves a legacy for a long, long, long time. And not every job does that. And I was a teacher for 13 years. And I was an assistant principal at Zachary High for one semester. And I had to go back to the classroom for a year and a half. Then I went to Broadmoor High as assistant principal for 3 years. Tara High for principal 6 years. And we grew that school from 800 to 1,420 kids in 3 years. And we had a great school there. And then I became superintendent in Zachary for 10 years. I was the first superintendent in Zachary. And what we said was, and I look at the preserve and protect, right? Isn't that what it? Pursuit, preserve and pursue. And so we started something very much like that about saying that we want to be a model of excellence. And that is the whole vision. The vision was a model of excellence serving all citizens. So let me just say that I've only seen this 3 times in my career. In Zachary, in DeSoto Parish, and in Plaquemines Parish, that the moon and the stars and everything has aligned. And that's where you go back to Patton, and he's always talking about those alignments. So we are at the right time. The moment is the right time. With the right opportunity. We know what the opportunity is. With the right leadership. And this is all of you in this room. With the vision and the funding and the readiness and willingness and ability to do the job. That's very rare. Very, very, very rare. It's here. And I mentioned that last time, and I mentioned that I think that the stars have aligned. But look, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens by hard work, having a vision for what you're going to do, and saying, we're going to do it, no matter how hard it is. And you just go ahead and do it. So I've really enjoyed working with all the principals. I haven't got to work with every one of them, but being a former principal, I know what kind of job that is. And right now, it's, look, when the 4th of July ends, it's boomed. It's work time. You got school in 3 weeks. I know what you're doing right now. So I came from a small district and into a large district, but you do have something very special here. All of those districts I mentioned are A districts. But a lot of times, in a state mentality, you see sometimes in state jobs is I'm just going to do my job. I don't have to do it great because they have to come to me. Folks, they don't have to come to you. Students and parents do not have to come to you anymore. But in DeSoto and in Zachary and in Plaquemines, they're going to choose to come to you. Even though you're an A district, you're going to get better each and every year. So I'm proud of you for that because you're not resting on your laurels. In a few weeks, we're going to start school. And I'm going to give a little pep talk to the principals real quick. It's only a couple of sentences, though. Pay attention to detail. I mean, I'm telling you now, I was a fanatic. Put them in a seating order if you're in elementary school. You can even do it in high school. But pay attention to detail, because you only have one chance for a great first start. It's only that day. The old saying is the two greatest days of a school year are the first and last. Now, y'all don't believe that, but I did, okay? But let me say this to you. You're going to have a great year, but the best is yet to come. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill Berry, who's the smart man on this project.
I'm leaving the room now. Thank you, Warren. Thanks to you all, to the board. Thanks, Ed. It's really been a pleasure for all of us on our team to work with you on this master plan. This is your plan. This is not our plan. This is a plan that was developed with our assistance. And what we bring that is really, truly valuable is we bring an outside, independent set of eyes, ears, and opinions and thoughts and recommendations. A lot of what we do, you could argue, is common sense and it's expected, but it's nice when you are saying, I was thinking that all along. It's nice when somebody from the outside says, I saw that too, and we're very pleased. I don't want to go without talking about Ed's development of this team. There are several of us here today who certainly represent the CSRS team, but there's a huge team. There's an array of people who Ed brought together for this that really has worked well and has created the document that you've now seen, and that will hopefully provide you with some really good recommendations for going forward. The master plan is an example of you taking a look, as the superintendent said, at your resources and spending those resources wisely, rationally, and thoughtfully, and thinking ahead about what you're going to spend and not doing it on a whim or at the last minute under, you try to avoid under an emergency of some sort. And so we're really pleased to be a part of that. The team was tremendous in size, but also in experience, and we're really pleased to be a part of that. Tonight, what I'd like to present to you is just a brief review of the purpose of what we were doing with you, and our process, how we did it, and then the findings. And at that point, and I won't spend too long to do that, because to get us to that point, we'd like to open it up for you all to ask us questions about what you've seen in the document, and anything from yourselves or at the right time from people in attendance. So if you would, the key question about why a facilities master plan, the real question to ask is why planning at all? It's really wise for anyone, individual or institution, to think and to plan and to approach things in a methodical way. What we did for you and what we're presenting tonight is the facilities master plan. It fits right in between two other key elements. One is a strategic planning, which you have executed. You've had a tremendous exercise in strategic planning that focused on the academic vision for this district and where things want to be headed for the academics. Because with that, you could almost call that our program. With that, we then look at your facilities and try to assess their condition as a pile of bricks and mortar, but also their condition as a serviceable facility and a facility that is furthering the mission of the district. And so with strategic planning done, and facilities master planning, the next step for you, and very important step for you, will be to consider the recommendations of the master plan, which are broad. In the case of capital planning, you take that the next step and you begin to develop very specific projects that would come out of those recommendations. And that capital planning looks ahead a number of years and looks ahead and plans your expenditures carefully and methodically. And again, not in a reactive mode, but in a proactive mode. Our approach and our process, our approach and methodology is 5 parts. It's the academic visioning, which is not just the strategic planning, but it's also discussions in meetings with various members of the staff and the administration to refine and get an understanding as to the academic vision that's going to drive our efforts. The facility assessments, this is where that team that Ed built of multiple consultants with varying expertise went through your facilities, visited those facilities with the help of Clint Ware, facilities director, to get to know those facilities as much as you can in a visual survey, but to get a sense of what those facilities' conditions are and to establish a set of repairs that are needed and to begin to prioritize those. The third step and separate step is a demographic study and an analysis of attendance and enrollment trends. That was done independently as a member of our team, Mike Hefner, who prepared that report. It's attached in whole, as are the facility assessments to the back of the master plan as appendices. And his findings, which we'll get to in just a minute, but as you've heard before, the findings on demographics and on enrollment is that we're not looking at a driving factor here in Plaquemines Parish from a demographics point of view. The real driving force behind this master plan is the academic vision and the condition of these facilities. In addition to those 3 steps, the 4th step is community engagement, and that's when we reach out to the community and we engage with, at each, we had 3 different locations, 3 different dates, where we encouraged members of the public to come and talk to us about their perception of school facilities, pros, cons, things that need work. That was a very important component, and it brought us a lot of feedback. So with steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's all data entry, if you will, for us. You know, that's all incoming material that we then synthesize in a planning process, in the last and final master planning process that generates the recommendations we have for you as the master plan. Just some of the key factors in our planning, sort of characterized as both challenges and opportunities. I'll just touch on a few of these, but you know, real challenge for Plaquemines Parish is not only the geographic sort of shape of the parish and the length of the parish, but the limited housing supply and the huge cost of improving or insuring homes in the southern portions of the parish. It is an issue that has to be considered by the school board with regard to your own facilities as far as being south of flood protection. The competitive public education environment Warren just mentioned, you know, it's no longer just we are the district and everybody in the district goes to our schools. There's more and more choice today. And so it's terrific to have Warren on our team because of his experience and having been in the seat of just about everybody in the room, and brings a wonderful perspective and guidance in that way. But there's no question that you need to be competitive as a district going forward. And so you'll see in our recommendations, we're focused on how do you develop your facilities in a way that will make you a competitive district. And then the challenges we have are we have some underutilized facilities. At the same time, we have some overcrowded facilities. And so those are 2 things we need to bring into balance. Under opportunities, there's some, wonderful opportunities to revamp the educational programs because of this new vision that has been put forth. There's available funds. So as the superintendent said, the funds are available. This is really about how do we develop the district wisely. You've got some tremendous partnerships and alliances, and we would argue and recommend that you continue to build those, if not, and develop new ones in addition. And there are areas in the parish that are flood protected and that should be focused on perhaps, but they're limited geographically. And again, our overarching pitch, which is that advanced planning, really is key here. And the opportunity here for you is to use this master plan as a measured approach, to looking at those capital improvements, but doing the right ones at the right time. There are two factors for us that you're going to see in the master plan that are tools. One is a program index, which takes a look at each facility. This is a fairly broad brush look, but it's a very helpful tool. And it takes a look at each facility and the current quantity of spaces, how occupied they are, which gives us a sense of the utilization of that facility. We're using as one example here, if we were to use the Learning Center, the Plaquemines Parish Learning Center as an example, there's a quantity of 10 classrooms or 10 spaces, useful spaces in that building, and they're currently really only utilizing 4. You are only utilizing 4. That's a fairly low utilization rate. If you go then to the next step, which is our facilities condition index, and you look at, let's jump to that next one, the facilities condition index, and you look at the condition of the bricks and mortar, the facility itself, this is also a broad brush tool, but it generates a figure that helps us characterize the condition of each one of these facilities. And it's helpful in that you can compare facilities and you can see how many are in better shape than others. It's also a broad brush tool, but it compares the cost if you were to take all of our recommended repairs and renovations and execute them all at once on one facility to get it up to top-notch operating condition. What would that cost, and how does that compare to the cost to build a new facility that would replace it of equal square footage? And in that exercise that we do for each one of your facilities, both academic as well as support facilities, we come up with a percentage. In the case of the Parish Learning Center, which we just using as an example here, it shows you that, the facilities condition index is at 20%. And what that suggests is that that's a building that's in really pretty good condition. So as one example, the Parish Learning Center, when we compare both the utilization, which is low, and the condition of that facility, which is pretty good, that prompts questions as to what's the best use for this. This appears to be an asset, depending on its location in the district and how it could be put to use, that would prompt some good questions about how do we make better use of that facility. If we go back now, I'll show you a list of all of the facilities and each of their program index numbers. So this is gives you a percentage of the utilization of those facilities. So for each facility on the list, the school facilities are on the left and the support facilities on the right. For each of those facilities, you can see the percentage of how occupied those buildings are. And for your school facilities, aside from the Learning Center, all those primary, elementary, high schools, all of those schools are very heavily utilized. And some of them, as you can see, are at 100%, even over 100% utilization. In that case, you're bursting at the seams. And what you really want for a facility is a utilization that's depends on the exact type of school, but in that 85 to 90%, 80, 85%, it depends on the situation. But you need a little bit of spare room, and when you consider Plaquemines Parish as a parish that's extremely vulnerable to natural disasters, you're going to want some of those facilities actually to have excess capacity, to be nimble and to be able to address issues where some facilities that might have been hit in the case of a natural disaster, that operations and teaching can go on in another facility. So you need some flexibility, and perhaps more so than in other districts. The support facilities off to the right, you can just see that there are several of those that are very low in their utilization, and you're going to see that's prompting us to recommend that you give some thought to, are those, if you're having to maintain those facilities and they're not being utilized, it prompts a very valid question as to, are we using them properly? Should we hold on to those? Do they have a different use? When it comes to the facilities condition index, aside from utilization, the facility condition index, as I said, talks to you about what percentage of an investment in in each one of those facilities would it take to get it up to top-notch operating condition as compared to the cost to rebuild it, same size, new. And as you can see, there are several. I go to the instructional on the left, or the school facilities on the left. We can see that Belle Chase High is the highest, and it's over 100% at that point. And so to invest, to properly bring that current facility up to the right standard, it would take over 105% of the cost of building a new facility. So really, once you get to that 60 or 70% mark for any facility, you want to start asking questions. What investments should we be making in that facility? What investments should we not be making in that facility? How much longer do we have to get our best value out of it? And when do we need to move on from those facilities? So this gives you a sense of the findings for all of those. Coming out of that, and after looking at each one of the facilities and the overarching intentions for the academic program, we have a variety of recommendations, and they are categorized. I'm just going to touch on a few here, but scheduled capital renewal, that's an overarching. We believe that while some of these facilities, you should be asking a question as to how much should we invest in it, there still are capital investments that are needed to maintain the operation and the proper function in all of these facilities. And so that will follow, and what we're going to be assisting you with is a very methodical application of capital resources to do the necessary repairs. The question is, we need to ask ourselves as we go, which of those repairs are priority, which happen sooner, and some could wait until later. The fire alarm systems for us looked at, we see that as a real high priority, that we'd like to see some district-wide upgrades. You've got a variety of facilities that are using a variety of fire alarm systems, some quite aged, some well beyond their useful life. And that's a factor that we think you could really benefit from an organized, district-wide, when I say district-wide, at least multiple facilities, and you might improve and put in some new fire alarm systems at a variety of facilities now, and then going forward, that would set the standard for your fire alarm systems for future projects. The hope being that you would have a unified and consistent system that's able to be maintained efficiently and operated effectively. For career and tech education facilities, you've got a wonderful partnership going on with Nunez, and that should be continued to be developed, and we should be looking at capital improvements, to meet the new objectives that are in this area. This is one of the areas that has been identified as a priority, and you've got, as we said earlier, in the district, there are really limited areas that remain in Plaquemines Parish that are developable, and I think for purposes of the school board's efficient utilization and development of facilities, we're recommending that you really get out there and you land bank, you find property that would be of value, and consider acquiring property. We have suggestions for transportation innovations. This is really not so much under the facilities heading, but it is something that has come up during the course of our work. And again, it's a factor of just how much distance there is across the parish. And tackling that transportation is a key part of that. And then again, to understand the value of your assets, we're recommending a methodical and strategic assessment of all district properties, and so that you can get appraisals and understand what is the value of your properties, and are all properties either contributing to the mission or will they contribute in the future? And if neither is true, then maybe those are properties for you to consider deaccessioning or selling. And then we get into some of the specific facility recommendations. So at South Plaquemine High, we're recommending several steps be considered, including an on-site medical clinic and a walking track. The medical clinic serves a need that, again, distance is a factor, and it would provide a service that has been seen and suggested as very valuable to the students and to the families. We are looking at the idea of a new walking track, which is something that we can develop and make available for community use, so it goes a little bit beyond just school functions. And an agricultural facility. This is a modest thing, but it's an important facility that's missing if there's going to be a growing agricultural curriculum. The South Plaquemine Elementary, again, we're seeing an opportunity there for installing a walking track with a playground, perhaps. At the current athletic field of the old high school. Boothville Venice needs multiple repairs, and again, that would be a part of the capital renewal program. We just are cautious about Boothville Venice and the valuation of the building, and making sure we spend the improvements wisely and not overspend on that facility, so that it doesn't trigger things that might be the raising of the building, because it's really not at the height that would be recommended today if you were to build new. And then Phoenix High School, we also see an opportunity for a medical clinic there. We're looking for a track at that school. We really recommend that you've got the need for that track and field equipment. But also, while we're doing that, we're still thinking you can make that available for community use as well. Again, Bell Chase Elementary School, there's a series of priority repairs that are in need, and to see those in the capital renewal program is an important component. Bell Chase High, the current high school is, as we saw in the facility condition index, it's in a very challenging condition, but it's also overcrowded and insufficient in its capacity. And so we're looking at that, and how do you address that? Well, to address that on the same site, you'd be looking at replacing perhaps that facility, and tremendous logistics in relocation, temporary relocation, while you try to remove the existing facility and build a new one. And we really don't think that site, when you look at the size of that site, it's not prepared to provide, it doesn't have the capacity really for what you need in a high school for Belle Chase. And so we're recommending that a new site, finding a new site for a new high school would be an important step that could do a couple of things. Number one, it allows you to build something new and not disrupt the current high school until you're ready to relocate. And it solves a lot of the swing space and the temporary relocation. But more importantly, it gives you you need a larger site that can really achieve the capacity you need. Belle Chase Middle School is in a similar condition where insufficient capacity of the building and in difficult condition. And so once again, to build on that site, there's more room on that site, but that site is located below flood protection. So if you're going to consider replacing that as a facility, that's a real challenge as far as doing it on that current site, not only for the temporary swing space requirements, but for the flood protection requirements. And so there we're recommending that also a similar consideration be given for a new site. In light of the new academic program, music and performing arts is an important missing element in a lot of ways, and a new facility would be able to support that new academic vision. And that for us is an important new facility. I don't think there's any facility in the district that really would lend itself to an adequate usage or occupancy to provide this use. And so there it's acquiring a site that is readily accessible and one that is close enough to be accessible to the largest number of students in the district, because this is a key centralized facility that would provide that academic service. And then the combined development of high school, middle school, and performing arts, when you consider the three above that were talked about individually, and you start to think, well, wait a minute, there is tremendous economy of scale that we should and could consider if the right site, might be found to recommend a high school, a middle school, and a performing arts unified development. That would, for instance, put the music and performing arts as a centralized facility right there on the same campus with the largest number of students. And so that's something to consider, as opposed to looking at each of those individually as three different challenges or different projects. Consider those as a unified development and take advantage of that economy of scale. And so we're really, we hope that you're prepared to really consider this master plan as a path forward. It's based on information and data that we've gotten from a variety of sources, and as you saw, the first 4 steps of our process is all about intake of information and then synthesizing that. But we really believe this master plan provides you recommendations that are a very clear path forward and would be further developed as you tackle those in your capital planning. I'd like to maybe offer to see if Warren, Ed, Garrett, any members of the team, or Clint, who's a key member of our team, have any thoughts or things that I may have missed that you guys want to touch on. And if not, we're interested to know what your questions are. You all have had, the document to review, You've heard the presentation. Let us hear from you. Okay. Anybody? Any questions?
I don't have a question, and I might be jumping the gun here because this is probably something I would have stated when we go to approve the master plan as presented. But since you presented it, I just want to ask the question so that the public understands the implications of approving the master plan. That does not necessarily mean that we are adopting all of these projects that are within the plan, that it just gives us the framework to choose what projects we want to move forward with, right?
Yes. In fact, our intention is to give you a general sense of direction, and it's our understanding that your process, and I really should defer that to the superintendent, but that your process is for any specific project that's to be pursued, it would come back to you, for ratification, for validation, and/or adjustment.
Right. I would hope that any big project we're doing, the big projects that we're seeing and talking about, and the big projects that are in this big binder would go to the Land and Construction Committee. They would vet everything out there and then make a recommendation to the full board.
Yeah, but I know we're probably going to make this public, is my assumption, yes. So when the public sees it, I just want them to understand that just because they see something in this framework, that does not necessarily mean that we will move on that project. It just means it's for consideration for the board.
Yes.
I have a question for you, or whoever. So last time I said something about how great it was that we included the community and stuff, but as I'm looking at it and thinking about it, if you open up a walking track for the community or build a park, which, I want kids to have those things, do we become liable if someone gets hurt on that? Like, or say the salty air down there rusts out the playground and a kid splits his leg open. Does that become a liability for the parish or for Plaquemines Parish Schools? So I just want the public to also understand too, when you say there's things that we say we may do or may not, but some of those things we have to think about the liability of ourselves protecting the school board when it comes to those kind of things.
So if it's your property, of course, then you would be liable for a condition, some hazardous condition that causes an injury. If you have notice of that condition, hazardous. So you would need warning of that hazardous condition. Therefore, you would be liable for not correcting that.
I mean, I've always known, like, when along the F. Edward A. Bear, when I would go play on stuff when I wasn't supposed to, I'd get yelled at or whatever. So, I knew that was probably now being an adult, that's probably why, because it was locked up and maybe I walked around the gate. So I'm just wondering, I was a kid too.
So we did, in Baton Rouge, we did several combined projects. At Struma High School, for example, BREC, the Recreation and Department for Baton Rouge, and the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board partnered. They paid for like 3 of the lanes at the track. There's an 8-lane track. And so then there's, and Andrew would know more about this than me, but then there's a partnership document put together.
Like a CEA.
Thank you. Cooperative endeavor agreement that the two entities put together. We did that at Struma High School. We did it at, I think, Bel Air High School. The new Glasgow Middle School, we actually partnered with, what's that traditional neighborhood development on Perkins? Ruzon. There's a huge traditional neighborhood development on Ruzon. When we hired an architect to do that, they came to us and said, do you think we could put a big gate at the back? We'll build the football field area, not for high school, but it's going to be a K-8. It's a middle school now. My kids went to Glasgow Middle. But I've recommended to them it become a K-8. We partner with Ruzan, so then it would become a public-private agreement there. So there are ways to do it. You're always going to be liable because you're just a public entity.
Right.
But the more people you can get involved in it, the more support you have. And so I'll give you examples that we did.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to add something real quick on the tracks. I'm going to try to stay out of the weeds when it comes to the technical side, but my brain gets going. The one thing that comes out of these tracks, usually at Scotlandville High School, was there were persons coming out. Tracks are designed with a certain, as some of you here know, where's the coach at? He would know. There's certain spike requirements on the track, so we would have times where a person came out there just from the community to run with the wrong spikes and tear the track up. So that's something that we could get into, it's certainly on the design standard side and with signage and everything else. But like Mr. Drake said, the liability is still there. So
Thank you.
If I may. Thank you, Michelle, for bringing that up. So I just, again, probably jumping the gun, could probably put this when we vote to approve the master plan, but I just want to encourage all board members when we're looking at projects within the facilities master plan that we use our mission and vision as the guiding principles to make the decisions to move forward with the facilities master plan. So making sure that we're educating children and keeping them safe, and just, that's it.
Anyone else? All right, well, for the folks at CSRS, I want to thank y'all because we've been talking to y'all since January about all this stuff and going through all these details. Your process is very robust. Your community involvement, we heard plenty of kudos for y'all for how you interacted with the community and said, hey, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you got. This is all part of the community. So I want to give kudos to y'all. Your demographer that you brought in, he was fantastic. I love geography stuff, so that was a treat for me to have him in. And as you can see, the binder that is presented of our master plan is significant. I mean, this is months and months of work and weekly meetings with CRS with the committee.
September, yeah.
So this is not a fly-by-night binder that we have here and a plan that was hastily put together. It is significant, and thank y'all for that, and thank y'all for all the work that you do. We do appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, with no other comments or questions, we'll close that matter and we'll move on later in the agenda to have a board action to approve the master plan.
Excuse me, Mr. President, would the
ma'am.
public be able to ask questions at that time?
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
Before we do any vote, any board vote, we have to have comments from the public. It is a Louisiana law, so
Perfect.
we will make sure that happens.
Thank you.
No problem. Moving on to item number 3, which is our consent agenda items. On June 16, 2025, the following committee meetings were held at the Woodland Central Office, located at 1484 Woodland Highway, Room 100, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Each meeting was presided over by its respective chair. The Committee of the Whole, led by Board President Nico Tesvich, and the Budget and Finance Committee, chaired by District 4 Board Member Christy Arbrough. Based on the recommendations from each committee, the following items are being presented to the full board for consideration and approval. And as we usually say, the consent agenda, I'll read out the item. If any board member wants to pull it for further discussion and an individual vote, please do so after I read the item out. I'll go ahead and read through the 3 items that we see here. Whichever ones are not pulled, we'll vote on in item 3.04. Then we'll go back and discuss whatever one is not, or whatever ones were pulled. If nothing is pulled, we'll just vote on them all at 3.04. Just like always being clear on that, because not everybody watches every meeting or comes to every meeting. And we thank everyone in the audience for coming tonight too. So with all that being said, 3.01, Committee of the Board, discussion and or action in regard to approval of bond financing for PPSB Facilities Master Plan. Catherine Phelan, CFO, and Lee Bressler, Managing Director, Public Finance, Debt Investment Banking, Raymond James and Associates. The recommendation, approve bond financing for the Facilities Master Plan as presented. Would any board member like to pull that item?
Mr. President, I'd like to pull that for further discussion.
Okay. Further discussion amongst board members?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 3.02. Hold on, let me make a note of that real quick. Ms. Sanger, good. Item 3.02, Committee of the Board, discussion and or action in regard to approval of the Facilities Master Plan reimbursement and retention resolution. Catherine Phelan, CFO, and Jason Akers, Bond Counsel and Managing Partner, Foley and Judell, LLP, Attorneys at Law. The recommendation, approve the Facilities Master Plan reimbursement and retention resolution as presented.
Mr. President, I would like to pull that item also for further discussion by board members.
You got it, Ms. Sanger. 3.03, Finance Committee. Discussion and/or action in regard to approval of the budget versus actuals, General Fund, May 2025. Catherine Phelan, CFO. The recommendation is to approve the budget versus actuals, General Fund, May 2025 as presented. All right, with all the consent agenda items being read, 3.01 and 3.02, we'll come back to those for further discussion. So let's go ahead and move forward with 3.04, the approval of the non-pulled consent agenda items, which is only going to be 3.03. Do I hear a motion to approve non-pulled consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion.
Y'all want paper, rock, scissors?
You may have it, Miss Arbor.
Okay, Ms. Arbor, I hear a motion.
have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Sauer will second. Thank you so much. Any discussion? Questions, comments from administration? Audience? Hearing nothing, let's go ahead and call this matter to question. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items that were not pulled, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Let's go back to item 3.01, which, perfect, is listed on the screen, so I don't have to read it again. Ms. Sanger, you pulled it. Would you care to talk about it?
Do I have to make a motion first?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
Thank you very much. Do we hear a second? Thank you, Mr. Ingraham.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Sanger, why'd you pull this one?
So I pulled this item because it was presented to the committee of the board, and this is a big decision with a lot of information that I feel the full board should be able to hear. And since the full board is here tonight, I would like to ask Ms. Phelan and Mr. Lee Bressler just to give us another quick rundown. And that way, if any board members who weren't present at the committee of the board may have some questions.
All right, Ms. Phelan, floor is yours.
Good evening. We need to be strategic with our windfall and not live paycheck to paycheck. And part of the reason that we brought Mr. Bressler in and Mr. Akers in is to guide us strategically on the financial side while we are planning the facilities master plan, because these things have to happen in tandem or in an organized fashion. We are blessed in that we have a lot of cash. Part of having a lot of cash gives us a lot of freedom to make opportune choices and the best choices. I've heard it said in past board meetings that we had no debt, and that's a good thing, but it's not a bad thing. And here's why. Because we're using other people's money. And so when we use other people's money, we have an opportunity to keep our money working hard for us. Right now, we're earning about 4.53 in our LAMP accounts. That's on an average daily yield. And so part of the bond financing arrangement is that any interest that we earn on the bond in the facilities master plan account can be used to pay for the expenses. And so, in a nutshell, or broad strokes, that is the advantage for us. And when I first came to this district, we were operating off of our fund balance. Not a good place to be. You do not want to be paying salaries from your fund balance. We are now in a position to secure the district's future in a very strategic way. And that's what I would like to do. I do not want to live paycheck to paycheck. Does that answer the questions, or?
If I may, I did ask Andrea Dotson the other day, tell me how much interest did we create in our own revenue we made ourselves on our money last year, and that's not with the balance that we have right now. Over $7 million. We created our own revenue stream. Wouldn't it be idealistic that whatever debt we incur, our own revenue stream pays that debt? It's a careful balance. We live in a very vulnerable area. We've seen what it is 20 years ago, not to have places for people to go. My caution is always, yes, we have money in the bank, but I want this district to operate 50 years from now by creating its own revenue streams. In the 70s, you had Port Sulphur, the refinery, closed down. In the 80s, you had the oil bust. We went through some tough times in 2016. If we can get to a point that we have a certain number in the bank, that we create a revenue stream, that $7 million covers 2 months of salaries for this district. Idealistic it is, but I don't know if there's any other districts have even fathomed to even be in a position to do that. My comfort level is protecting this entire parish to make sure that we have students who go to school and a place for them to be in whatever area is allowed to have a school at that time in 50 years. But part of a legacy we should have is to ensure that they can function in the next disaster and not shut down. FEMA, there's no guarantee it will ever do what it did in the past. We hear the news. We have to be positioned that we depend on ourselves. I have to say, just like our MFP, it went down another 12%. We're at rock bottom, 25% from the state now. We are functioning. What do we get from the federal government? $2.2 million in title funding. The rest is on us already. We have to position ourselves. We hear the story what's happening in Phoenix. We know with Phoenix High School and what FEMA has said to us, because we do not carry $29 million of insurance a year. They're not going to cover anything over there. We're in a position that we must secure all cash, but yet not limit us from doing what we need to do what's right. So if we can generate our revenue ourselves, that is my recommendation. And that's the point of learning about the bonds and how it could benefit us in the end.
And also, just to emphasize Dr. Ritz's point, the interest earned, that is our most advantageous revenue stream that we can accomplish.
So in layman's terms, we're basically saving our nest egg and operating off of our interest income to be able to move forward with our master plan.
That's what I would envision.
Okay.
It may not be perfect, it may not match up. The numbers are going to change. The lamp rate will go down. The interest rate may be 2 points higher. That's all in that guidance that we would need. And you take out little bonds at a time as we go.
Yeah.
It's just, we educate ourselves in this. Look, I had no idea what bonds were, and that's the whole reason why I was introduced to these gentlemen. We were doing our weekly meetings with CSRS. I'm like, I just need to learn more. I don't understand all of it. And it's through conversations, but my message continues to be the same. The number we have in that link account right now, I don't ever see that opportunity in a lot. I mean, could you ever imagine being in that position? We just want to be smart with it, I don't know when it will happen again. You know, so that's my invitation. Think and consider it, all you want. And the motions here tonight do not obligate us to a single bond. What the first one of them does is protect us that, hey, we're starting to plan, say we want to acquire some land, we have this. You don't go for a bond right now to do all that. Yeah, whatever we take out, we want to get our interest back as quickly as possible. You know, so it's a mindset, and we all need on that same page, securing and protecting that pot. And helping ourselves 50 years from now. That's what we need to think about, 50 years from now.
Take out the bond till you need them.
Correct.
You don't take out the bond till you're ready to spend the bond.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. And we would have to come to the board when that time occurs, which is many months out.
Many, many.
Thank you, Ms. Phelan, for doing a presentation again tonight.
You're welcome. Do we proceed to the second question, or do we
I think we have to call for a
procedurally?
vote
Yeah,
on
we still have to go through,
3.01.
we still have to go to a vote on 3.01. I'd like to point out a couple quick things to board members. Because of my job, I have to abstain on this vote because there may be a possible conflict of interest there. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to abstain when we vote on this item. Also, because we heard the presentation of the master plan already, and we're gonna vote on approval of the master plan later tonight, this is contingent upon us approving that master plan later tonight. So we have to do that at 4.045 before this would fully go into effect. Correct, Mr. Barr? Correct. Thank you.
Also, President, we have to do a roll call on this particular vote because it's a resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Public comment. Haven't asked the audience if they had anything. Anybody in the audience care to speak on this issue? We didn't get any green cards that I know of, right, Mr. Plessis? And thank you, Mr. Plessis, for keeping notes and all the stuff that you do. Appreciate it as always. Anybody in the audience?
President Teskich, if I may, I would
Ms.
like
Blanchard, would you mind going over to the mic? Thank you so much.
the microphone. Thank you. Good evening. So just out of an abundance of caution, I would like to clarify for the folks here and for the folks watching on TV, when folks hear the word bonds, they think that taxpayers need to become involved. So if anyone would be able to comment, both from the administration or from the board, this is not a bond that we would put forward to the tax base of Plaquemines Parish. If we could make comment around that for our folks here.
Can you also share how we're using other people's money and who the other people are?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Lee Bressler with Raymond James, and we presented a lot of information about the company last time. I'm happy to go over that, but I think you want to hear more about your situation. And you were absolutely correct. Probably 80–90% of the time when the school board wants to build new schools, they go to the voters and they raise the taxes. And there's a general obligation bond, and they raise the millage to whatever it takes to pay for that, and that's what pays for the new schools. That's not what we're talking about here. That was taken off the table day one. Mm-hmm. So we looked at other options. Okay, what if you took the $150 million and built schools with that? Well, you could do that, but then in a couple of years, you'd have no cash, no liquidity, and you would be subject to problems if there was, hopefully not, but, I live here in New Orleans. We get hurricanes, and there's going to be more hurricanes. We just don't know what they're going to be like. So that was option number 2. Option number 3 was to take the $150 million and pledge that to the bond issue. Well, that sounds good, but one is you would have to limit the earnings to what you're paying out on the bonds, and the bonds are issued as tax-exempt bonds, which means that the investors don't have to pay tax on the interest. So, but you're buying taxable bonds or taxable money market funds or whatever, and so normally people would have to pay interest on that. You all don't because you're a government entity, but you can arbitrage that, and I promised Catherine I wouldn't talk about arbitrage. So what we came up with was we were down to option 4 then. We didn't want to do the general obligation bonds, go to the voters. We didn't want to spend the money. We didn't want to pledge the portfolio. So we said, okay, you guys have a very strong tax base, sales tax and property tax right now. at the current millage and the current sales tax rate, it brings in significant dollars. Investors are used to lending money based on a sales tax revenue and or a property tax revenue. We haven't decided if it's going to be one or the other or both yet, but we'll just have to see when we get closer to the time. And so that's what we're suggesting, is that you pledge your sales and property taxes. Now, the problem with that is you're using that money to pay operations for the school. So that over time will have to come from the 150 million to make up for the difference. But the other thing is that this is not one bond issue. This could be 3 bond issues or more. Typically, you do one project at a time, or you could combine all 3 of them if they're all ready. But you guys haven't really started the design phase or anything there, so we're months away from making that decision. But you have a lot of flexibility of doing it in project by project. It's not a good idea to borrow for half of a project and then have to worry about coming back later to finish the project. But again, we're not making any definitive plans right now. We're just your bond counsel and I will be working with the team here to try to help figure out what's the best way to do. But you're right. This is not a bond. You're not incurring debt. One, we're going to come back to you before you incur any debt and explain exactly what we're doing and get you all involved in the process. We actually have a program on our computers where you guys can watch as the bonds are sold and see if we have investor interest 5 times as much or 20% as much, and then make the adjustments there. So it's totally transparent from that standpoint. And we do this, like I said, we're one of the top 10 underwriters in the country. We're number 1 in K through 12. We're typically one of the top 2 or 3 in Louisiana. We've worked with most of the school boards here, probably handled over $1 billion of school board debt in Louisiana over the last few years. And this is a really interesting, when you all are debt free, you've got the big cash account, and again, the flood zone issue is kind of out there too. And I know you all want to be able to, if there's issues with some of the schools out of the flood zone, be able to have facilities to accommodate the students and have less disruption. So I 100% agree with all the recommendations of CSRS. I think it makes a lot of sense for you all. But again, you're taking the master plan, you're going to be slicing and dicing it, coming up with your plan, and then we're going to be working alongside that to figure out the funding component of it once you know exactly what you're building, how much it's going to cost, and we'll be ready to help give you the funding to award the construction bid and get moving on this. And just however long it takes, that's how long it takes. But you're not committed to anything other than just, you may borrow money down the road and you'll have to get the specifics later before you make an approval. Did that explain about the tax question? Because I kind of got off subject there, but most people go to the voters and get the taxpayers to pay for it. You're not doing that. You're in a very unique situation of not having to do that.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? Board members, any final thoughts? Ms. Turner?
No, so, I don't know if this is the right question or whatever. So why are we haven't made a decision on
Correct.
any of this stuff. Why are we hiring them already?
They're just being the
So we gotta pay
counsel.
them, once we approve this, they start getting paid?
No, ma'am.
So how does this work?
No, ma'am.
No,
I
ma'am.
just,
No, that's good questions.
I wanna know about the money, like, we're
Yeah.
talking about saving money and all
They
this.
do not
so
get a
what-
dollar.
We do not get paid until the funds are provided at the closing of a bond issue. So
Okay,
it's
so you get
months.
$0. All right, okay.
That's a good question.
No,
I'm just driving over from uptown New Orleans, so it's not that much of a.
Well, you drove shorter than me, so yeah.
Board members, anything else? All right, anything else from the audience? Okay, all right, we've given ample time for public comment and discussion, so I'll say let's go ahead and call this matter to question. We do need a roll call vote because it's a resolution, so Dr. Ritz.
Sure, thank you very much. So District 1, Ms. Darlene DeMall Turner.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, because now I know we don't have to, pay you up front. So my vote is yes.
District 2, Ms. Jamie K. Sauer.
Yes.
District 3, Ms. Tanika Testvidge.
I abstain.
District 4, Ms. Christy Albrecht.
Yes.
District 5, Ms. Michelle Lindner.
Yes.
District 6, Ms. Jennifer Shelley.
Yes.
District 7, Mr. Bobby Ingraham.
Yes.
District 8, Mr. Paul Lemaire.
Yes.
District 9, Ms. Jennifer Sanger.
Yes.
All right, motion carries by an 8-0-1 vote. Thank you all, board members, and thank you, Ms. Phelan and Mr. Bressler for coming
Thank
up.
you all.
Yes. Let's move on to item 3.02, which was pulled by Ms. Sanger.
I'll make a motion to discuss it.
All right, anybody got a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Linder.
Okay.
Let me get that down.
I think Ms. Phelan already knows the floor is hers, and now probably Mr. John Akers' turn as well with her.
Yes. You have before you tonight a reimbursement resolution, which simply reimburses us for items like attorney's fees, appraisal fees, purchase of property, dissolution of property, things of that nature. And I will stop with that comment and turn it over to Mr. Akers.
Thank you. My name is Jason Akers. I'm with Foley & Nudell. We're bond counsel. I'd like to clarify very quickly, if you recall, for the gentlemen who weren't here at the meeting, this was actually referred to at the Committee of the Whole as an exciting resolution. And so I think that we need to set the stage with that. This is under the federal tax code. When you issue tax-exempt bonds, you're supposed to issue bonds only to pay for items that expenses you incur prospectively, so in the future, unless you do what this resolution is doing and declares your official intent to have the opportunity, not required, have the opportunity to reimburse yourself for expenditures should you deem it necessary to do so when you actually issue the bonds, if you actually issue the bonds. So looking down your agenda at item 4.01, there's a reference to a purchase agreement for a property. That is something that could be reimbursed with bond proceeds should you desire to do so. Again, should you go forward with the issuance of the bonds. That's what the resolution accomplishes, and it's, again, just a federal tax code requirement. By now, you've probably picked up on as I was very facetious about it being an exciting resolution, but it is, this is the one, it is a necessary resolution for us to move forward. I will clarify, if I may, just one, and I apologize. She did mention attorney's fees, but we are also like Mr. Bressler. We are not, we don't charge anything. We're not allowed to charge anything by the Attorney General unless we actually close on a transaction for you. So we're in the exact same boat. Just want to be clear on that.
Is it fair to say that this resolution just keeps our options open and removes limitations?
It's very fair to say that. That's exactly what it does. It doesn't commit you to anything.
Thank you.
And my apologies, 3.01 was not a resolution, so we did not need a roll call, but this one, we do need a roll call. My apologies.
So I do have a question. You said if we use this to actually do the purchase agreement, so then we would have to come back together as a board, decide on that as well for adopting that bond? Like,
yeah, so if you're going to go forward with any bonds at all, it's going to come back to you at least 2 more times before you move forward to a sale and closing process. At least 2 more times. What this does is just preserve the right to bring it back to you those 2 other times. With respect to the property purchase, I'm merely noting that 4.01 on your agenda references purchase agreement to acquire attractive land. That is an expenditure that could be reimbursed from bond proceeds should you decide to do so in the future.
Other questions or comments by board members?
Thank you, Mr. Akers.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I commend you on your tie choice tonight. I got the same tie myself, so I love wearing it.
Thank you. I have to tell, I told the superintendent, my wife has bought me one tie in our 25 years of marriage, and this is also the only tie that I get complimented on anywhere. So that should tell me something.
Everybody loves always ties. All right, board members, anything else? Sorry for the brief moment of levity. Audience, administration? Okay, just like with the previous item, out of an abundance of caution, I will be abstaining on this board vote. So let's go ahead and call it to question. Dr. Ritz, can you once again do a roll call?
I'll be happy to, sir.
Thank you.
District 1, Ms. Darlene DeMall Turner.
And because we're not paying you, and because we get money back, I'm gonna go ahead on and vote yes.
District 2, Ms. Jamie K. Sauer.
Yes.
District 3, Mr. Nico Tesfage.
I abstain.
District 4, Ms. Christy Obro.
Yes.
District 5, Ms. Michelle Lindner.
Yes.
District 6, Ms. Jennifer Shelley.
Yes.
District 7, Mr. Bobby Ingraham.
Yes.
District 8, Mr. Paul Lemaire.
Yes.
And District 9, Ms. Jennifer Sanger.
Yes.
All right, that motion is approved by an 8-0-1 vote.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Phelan, for all you do, not just this, but all you do. All right, let's move on down to item 4.01, which is to consider entering a purchase agreement to acquire a tract of land in Belle Chase, Louisiana. Superintendent Ritz and Board President Nico Tesfage. I want to note something before I ask for a motion. Note it says consider, that this item does not say discussion and/or action. This is simply consideration. If we do want to act on this, we can, but for now, it is a consideration item. We can move with a board action, a gavel-to-gavel action later if we so choose after discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Barr? Yes. Thank you, sir. All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Sauer. And thank you, Ms. Shelley. Dr. Ritz, do you want to talk a little bit on this, or would you rather just open it up?
Could we explain some of the conversation that we had said? So there's an existing purchase agreement. If we vote yes to move forward, doesn't mean we sign that actual purchase agreement right now. What we're asking for is permission or you to acknowledge that the president of the board will sign representing you when we go to the table with a purchase agreement. What I have given you and what I've shown you or what I've told you, the information from possible sellers, we still want to ask something else and some more questions and so forth and go further questioning with the realtor. So what we're asking is, are you willing to engage in this conversation? And then after more calls and information provided, then the president of the board will sign off on your behalf, correct? What that will allow us to do is, as the board, we are responsible for, one, making sure the property is useful for us. We will be paying for that expense. I don't want the board to go through an expense unless it is assured that we are engaging in this process. So it's sort of like the cart before the horse. You got to make sure that we want to move forward with this. So that way, then we'll put people in place to start looking at the land to make sure due diligence is done on behalf of the board. Does that make sense? Mr. Tesfage, you want to add?
I think you hit the high points there on the talking points, Dr. Ritz, so thank you for that. But yes, there are some other wrinkles to iron out, so to speak, to use a euphemism here. But this is letting the owners of the tract of land know we are extremely interested in it, and we want to move forward once those wrinkles are ironed out.
I have a question. So I know normally before we purchase, in anticipation of purchasing, doesn't it go before the Land and Construction Committee? Or we just bypassing Land and Construction and going straight? I just ask, because I know a lot of things we have to discuss, in our committees.
Purchase of a property has to go to the full board.
Okay.
So this would be sort of going forward, then backwards, then forward. Again, it going to the full board, making you aware of what's going on before you even go to a committee. When it's something like this, that's this big, it's a lot of money or consideration and a lot of legalese. Board members, you as a whole need to know up front. Going to the committee, I think, works through nuances and so forth in conversations, but this is something that really, here's a document that we want the president of the board to sign, but just going to the committee to do that, it has to go to you.
I don't mean going to the committee to
Yes, ma'am.
sign off, and then going to the committee to discuss the logistics of this property and what it is we're trying to acquire. That's, normally that's the purpose of having the committees, is to discuss these type of things. I get the purchase as far as trying to purchase a building.
Yes.
I was just asking a question about, I know land construction. That was
Yes,
it.
ma'am. So what had happened was during CSRS meetings, we were meeting every Thursday from September all the way, and then until about March, it became like sort of every other Thursday or every 2 or 3 weeks. So what happens is during those conversations, we were talking about, of course, the flood risk and the idea of where's available, because I think in January y'all saw the maps for FEMA and so forth, which was shared. They were telling us that, they're looking at even availability of what's even available for you. You look so landlocked in this community. And so forth, we are. An idea of land banking, that's what the premise was when we had met one meeting. I said, well, look, what do we even have available? And that's when CSRS says, well, let's look at the maps and what we have. I met with Garrett Spears even at one time. We had gone and had 2 meetings. What's even around? What's even available that has 40 acres, and so forth? Because when you look at the cart like Belle Chase High School, I'm like I didn't know how big really property is. So he says, look, if you look at just the core property, not the football field, not the softball field, but just the property at Belle Chase High School, it's a little over 11 acres. So he says, but if you had the wide auditorium, the football field, and that, you'd bring it up to about 18 acres. Those are approximate numbers. So I'm like, okay. So if you had a facility that would need the whole football field, you'd have its own baseball field, you would have the track and so forth, you're looking at, I can sort of visualize and contextualize sort of about size property that you would need. That's how I had to simplify it in just my mind without having the experience. So when we started saying, oh my gosh, who around here? Well, we know there are citizens that own property in this community and they hold on to land. So that's when I was like, oh my gosh, y'all, I think we're going to be like landlocked for whatever. And that's when CRS says, look, there are always situations. Let's just looking at all the properties. What is your favorite one on here? And that's how it all happened in regards to it. And then the realtor called me like in shock and just saying how he was, he's been working with Jefferson Parish, Orleans Parish, the Archdiocese, and he said he has never been to a meeting with people who weren't selling and just a gracious people being from this community and engaging in conversation with a family. He said it was such a unique experience for him that he wanted to have an emergency meeting with all of us right away just to talk about that experience and tell us what it was. That's how this all evolved. It was, Mr. Drake referenced the stars aligned. It was just such unique, and it truly gave me goosebumps in the moment. And I talked to Mr. LeMaire, and he said that's how that family is. It's a beautiful family. So it made me better understand. So that's how it all evolved.
Thank you for that, Dr. Ritz, because that was kind of my questioning was like, okay, we know we discussed land banking and we know we have these facilities master plan, but nobody put a vision to what they seen to this land.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was going to be my question is, okay, we're acquiring this land. Why are we acquiring this land? Is it so that if we prioritize certain projects within here, we have somewhere to make that come to fruition? Or are we just land banking because we're trying to make an investment to turn profit in the future by turning around to sell the piece of land? You know, what is the vision for this piece of property?
And if I could, Ms. Sanger, it's a win-win. If we use it to build something on it, great. If we just acquired very valuable property in Belchase and it's, you know, great flood rating and we want to sell part of it later on, that's more money we got coming in, that's another win. So this is a win on a lot of levels, but we got to do our due diligence. We got to make sure we iron out those wrinkles. We got to make sure it's right, because at the end of the day, it is taxpayer money, and we got to make sure we're doing the right thing with it.
Right.
And so to rewind, if we approve the consideration to enter a purchase agreement, we then give our authority to the board president.
Correct. Acting on your behalf and potentially obligating the board to the purchase of the property.
Okay.
But we're not bound to these exact words that we're seeing right here in front of us, correct? We're not
No.
bound to the exact purchase order that's
In front of us,
okay.
no.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's still specifics to understand and iron out.
So, Mr. Barr, can you also explain about when a school board purchases property, what are the legal, when it comes, a lot of people talk about dollars. Can you explain that as far as, with your mic on? As far as the appraisal thing, with the appraisal?
Right, so the appraisal is graciously given to the board in choosing the appraiser. So that's a wonderful, generous obligation to have. So that is beneficial for the board, and that appraisal is going to be essentially determining sale price. So you, as a board, get to choose the appraiser in this scenario, just in our initial discussions. And so that would be giving the school board president the authority to enter into a purchase agreement utilizing a appraiser chosen by the school board pursuant to the purchase of this property.
And what is the price, when you talk about the appraisal, what are we allowed to really pay over it, or we have to pay at the appraisal rate? Because we're a governmental entity.
Right, so that would be your offer. The appraisal comes back at an amount, that's your offer to the seller. The seller then has the authority to either accept or counter or deny. So again, that's certainly the seller's position to come from, but again, it's a starting point, starting point in favor of the board to purchase this piece of property.
So if Mr. Tasevich goes, as our agent, goes to the table and says, you know, y'all findings after the appraisal, and, you know, we find there's something wrong with it, we're not obligated to purchase it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that time period is one of the things we're looking at.
Yes.
We're looking at a possible extension there. Okay. Board members, anything else? Good questions, by the way. All right, audience, any comments from the audience or the administration? I should have said administration first. Audience? All right, hearing nothing further, let's move forward and call this to question. It is not a resolution, it is just a board action. So we can do our usual verbal vote. All board members in favor of, I want to get my language right here, Mr. Barr. What's your suggestion on language for this?
Mr. Tasevich, did we make a motion?
We did. There was a motion to consider.
And a second, okay.
Yeah, by Ms. Sauer and Ms. Shelley. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a board action to approve the board president to engage in finalizing the purchase agreement for the land. Good enough. Ms. Duplessis, do you need me to say that again? Okay. A board action to authorize the board president to engage in finalizing the purchase agreement for the land. Okay.
So we're not required to motion again for that?
Oh, I'm sorry. We will. We will need another motion. Yes. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Sanger and Littner. Okay. Any further discussion? Audience? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries 9-0. Thank you, board members. Moving on to item 4.02, discussion and/or action in regard to adoption of the budget adoption schedule for fiscal year 2025-2026. Ms. Catherine Phelan, CFO. Do I hear a motion for this item?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Arborough.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Phelan, the floor is yours.
Good evening. We are required by the Louisiana Legislative Auditor to adopt a budget adoption schedule every year. The first meeting is August the 18th, where you will be presented a draft of the proposed budget for 25-26. We will also have to have a special school board meeting on that same day, August 18th. And then September the 4th will be the budget public hearing for the 25-26 budget. And then September 4th, we will also adopt the 25-26 budget. All of those meetings are scheduled to occur in this room on those dates. Do we have any questions?
Not a question, but a comment, Ms. Phelan. Thank you for clarifying that we're doing the right thing according to the state and our policy. So I appreciate that we double check that and appreciate your efforts to make sure we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is also the time in which we'll have maybe a special meeting before the regular board meetings as well too. So I'll be sending messages to you so we're all there on time. I'll try and keep you up with that. It's a little chaotic during this period, just from experience now.
Yeah. So, and again, to clarify, August 18th, budget's presented, September 4th, meeting to approve. Anything further, board members? Administration? Audience? All right, let's go ahead and call this item to question. All those in favor of the budget adoption schedule for fiscal year 25-26 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phelan. But don't go anywhere because we got 4.03, discussion and/or action in regard to approval of the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire required by the Louisiana Legislative Auditor, LLA. Ms. Catherine Phelan, CFO. Oh, we need a motion?
I'll make a motion. Oh,
I got one from Ms. Turner for a motion.
I'll second.
A second from Ms. Sauer. Thank you. Ms. Phelan, go ahead.
This is a document that is required before we start proceeding with the audit for 24-25. It simply states that it asks questions whether we believe we are compliant in all fiscal areas, which we do believe that we are. So it's a simple housekeeping audit item required by the auditor, state auditor. And I'd like to ask that you approve the questionnaire as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Phelan. Board members, questions, comments, concerns? Administration? Audience? All right, hearing nothing further, let's go ahead and vote on this one. All those in favor of the approval of the LLA questionnaire signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to item 4.04, student expulsion appeal. Dr. Ritz, you want to take it or you want me to talk about it? Okay. So for, as usual with an expulsion appeal, we'll do it here in this room. We will have to enter into executive session and follow our usual policies and procedures in regards to executive session. Mr. Barr has his hand up. What you got?
Mr. President, can we get a clarification from students' parents or representative whether or not they want it public or private?
Good question. Yeah, can we find that out, Dr. Ritz?
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Ritz has just informed me that they would like to have a private hearing for this expulsion appeal. So, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, we will have to clear the room. It'll be just board members, Dr. Ritz, our hearing officer, Mr. Barr, and the parents and their representation. Back to order at 8:54 p.m. as we return to executive session. Do I hear a motion to return from executive session?
So offered.
Thank you, Ms. Sanger, and thank you, Mr. Lemare. We are back from executive session at 8:54.
Nope, all those in favor?
I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for checking me on that too. All right, we are-
Mike, turn on your mic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Golly. Get it together, Nico. So 8:54 p.m. we return from executive session back into open session. All right, and we are on item 4.04, which is a student expulsion appeal. Do I hear a motion in regards to that expulsion appeal?
You need to announce that no decisions.
Of course, no decisions were made in executive session. With that being said, do I hear a motion on the expulsion appeal?
Mr. President, I would like to, in light of the evidence, I would like to make a motion to modify the decision to return back to school on a probationary period of 1 semester.
I'll second.
Okay. That was Sanger and Lemare. Okay, board members, discussion, questions, concerns? Audience? Administration? Okay, without hearing any further comments on that, let's call this to a vote. All those in favor of going with that modification signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for the patience as we go through executive session, or as we went through executive session. However, we've been here for quite a long time and we could definitely use a bio break. So do I hear a motion to do a 5-minute recess?
I will make a motion.
We all second it?
We all second.
Okay, I'll say
Just pick anybody.
Linder and Sanger made a motion to go, hold on, we got to vote. Made a motion to go into a recess.
Talk quicker.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
They only
carries.
have 2
5-minute
stalls.
recess.
You know what? They're on. We can make her, they ask her to make them.
All right, we returned from our brief recess. I need a vote, motion to return from recess.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Arbor. Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Questions, comments, concerns? I didn't think there were any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's move on. In our agenda, we are now on 4.045, which is to approve the master plan as presented. We saw the presentation earlier today. We also had one during the committee of the board. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Arborough. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Sauer. Okay, on the matter of approving the master plan, I'm gonna start with something, and I say this regrettably, because this packet is what it is. This is significant. I was called out of town for work for 3 days, spent 6 hours stuck in an airport. I had no way of reading this document because I didn't have it with me, because everything that was with me was what I needed for work, and I didn't have any extra place to put this. So board members, I come before you today and say I was only able to look through about 30% of this, and I probably only retained about 10% of what I read. So me personally, I am not comfortable myself voting on this tonight. I would like to see it deferred until we can have more time to digest it. All of us have more time to digest it. We can hash it out in committee and that kind of thing. If someone wants to make a motion to defer it, I will gladly second and vote for it. Otherwise, if the remainder of the board wants to vote for this master plan tonight, I'm going to abstain on the grounds that I don't have enough information to make a decision. Now, with all that being said, CSRS, you did a fantastic job. This is not, me saying all this is not a vote against y'all at all. And I do believe with the vast majority of what I've read. So this is not a slight on y'all. This is, I didn't have enough time to do my job, so I've got to take a step back on this one. And that's where I say on that. But please feel free to discuss.
I have a question. If I thought the motions 3.01 and 3.02 were contingent upon the approval of the master plan. So if we defer, what does that look like?
Those had to be voted on first.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, got you.
So I have a question, Dr. Ritz. If we were to defer it, and there's things in this master plan that we know have to happen no matter what, whether we're putting it off for a month, there's things in the schools that definitely just, you know, to keep them running and keep them going and keep them sufficient, because like we can't build Belle Chase High School today, but there's things there that have to be fixed. And am I
Before the school year starts, yeah.
Well, of course, like currently right now, Belle Chase Elementary School,
Right.
the big white columns
are now pretty nice.
had
brick ones.
erosion
I
in
saw
the
them.
center of them, so we had to take those down. That's natural maintenance. What we're talking about is setting up, taking this data, this dense data, and making sure that this is the purpose of where we want to put money and spend it wisely. So right now, we're just going to keep, oh, we think we need this, we need this, we need this, we think we need this. What I'd like to do is make sure we're diligent about it. So what my next steps was at the land and construction meeting, we were going to come together and start having CSRS lead us through, okay, what is the appropriate steps to do next? Once we know this information, it is data. It's collective data. It's not a lot of work hours in regards to an intelligence staff with expertise that have put it together. The next step is to sit around the table in land and construction and say, okay, what do we do with it? And then going through the exercise and looking at each thing and say, okay, how do we examine this? When you look at this document, this is not like a narrative read from front to back. This kind of a read is intended to be, you open it up and then you flip to the back and you look at images, or you look here. There's a starting point somewhat, it's like an information guide that really isn't a narrative read. I guess, like when you're teaching your readers and when you approach a text, this text is meant to be a resource for us when we make smart decisions. That's the purpose of it in regards to it.
I don't even feel like it's just a guide. I feel like it's just giving us the facts of what is actually going on and the evidence of, I read it. And not to say you were busy this weekend, but I read through it and it's heartbreaking, some of these pictures. I don't want to delay it any further. If all this is telling us what they found, they're not going to find more between now and a month from now. None of this data is going to change. We can change anything in this. This is not a Bible. This is a frame. Nothing's going to change between now and then. Mr. Bill, are y'all going to come back with any additional findings outside of what y'all have currently turned in?
Is accurate, and I think we would like you to consider this as a collection of data that is supporting probably what you already know in your heart, but is now in black and white and on paper. And the recommendations that we're giving you are offering those to you as a sense of direction, none of which proceed as specifics without coming back to you again. As the superintendent said, the next step would be to go into your committee process and talk specifics. And even there, we'd probably be there for purposes of discussion at the first round, but to look at what this could mean with some specifics. So that's what I would.
We could choose not to move forward with absolutely anything in this book. All they've given us is the information to move forward, and that's what all of us did this for. That's what all of us got in office for, was to move things forward. And I didn't run for office to delay anything. So that's where I am.
If I may, I'll add to that. So we live in South Louisiana, so we know most everybody knows football. So just to compare this to football, this is a playbook.
Yes.
Where they design some plays for us, we can choose to use them, we can choose to modify them, we can choose to ixnay them.
Yep.
We use what we want out of this, and it's a good starting point and a good framework, because at first I had some reservations about moving so quickly. And then after speaking and understanding that this is our playbook,
Yes.
and we can pivot how we see fit, I'm okay with moving forward tonight.
And respectfully, we did get this information very quick, but they took a lot of time on this, and we know that.
And look, I'll say there's some things in here that I don't agree with, and that I know that I probably won't support to spend money on as a board member, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But there are some things in here that we know we have to support and we need to get moving on.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the beauty of having 9 members, and that's the beauty of they're representing different communities and what we believe are different priorities. That's what makes this group work together. There's a respect for that. And there's no harsh feelings about anybody saying whatever they feel at this moment, even want to move forward, not move forward. But Jennifer, to your point, it's not something that you're supposed to read every word for. What it is you have the generalized understanding what's taking place at each facility. But then while you're reading it, you have the appendices in the back to help you better understand. it wasn't meant for you to read through one time really and really have a full understanding of where we're going next, because that's got to be done through a collective body and really truly with guidance in that collective body. You know, I believe in the process that they've been leading us through and understanding that it is important to have community support at a certain phase. It's important for us to pause and stop and understand demographics. I think it's an important step next saying, okay, so we're hearing this stuff and we sort of heard some stuff twice from last time to this time. You're looking, okay, so I'm envisioning like the committee meeting and say, okay, now what do we do? What do we do with this information? How do we start? What kind of discussions? And what understandings do we declare to each other? Like, just like Jennifer said, we're not going to agree with how we start next or what's the next priority. What we can agree on is that this is solid data.
Yeah.
That gives us a place to spring from.
Dr. Ritz, I'm glad you brought up committee meetings because, and I didn't really want to address this in public, but I can address it in public in a manner that I think is professional.
Yes, ma'am.
As a board, as leaders of committees, because this is what we're going to be working with through committees moving forward. I will encourage you, if you are the chair of a board, anytime something is brought to you from the superintendent or from Ms. Phelan, from any member of the school board, I would encourage you to reach out to your board members to discuss it with them, what's coming up. I know that we can't gather and meet as a whole, but we need to be in communication about the things that are going on. And I know sometimes we can't all make committee meetings, and that's why we have committees, so that we can have people there to listen and to reason and to communicate. So I encourage you as leaders on committees, you have been elected as the chairperson because you're the leader that is expected to communicate. So please make sure that you keep all board members in the loop. I encourage that moving forward.
Good point.
My turn now?
Yes, ma'am. My favorite, right?
Yes. No, I just want to say, Nico, I totally understand, because I know you are one of those that want to be on top of, you know what I'm saying, making decisions and being informed about everything that's going on. But what, you know, so much have to happen in our schools, we really do need to start the process. Like, we really need to get the ball rolling. There's some little things that we probably can do, start out with, but there are some major projects that definitely need to happen, and we all know what they are. So as a board member that's always, you know, throwing salt in the game, I gotta say I'm gonna throw a little sugar this time and be on Christy's side and say that
There's no sides. We're all on the kids' side.
No, I mean, speaking in what you said about moving forward, and I saw how emotional you are about it, and I truly understand when it comes to our kids that, you know what I'm saying, it's no delaying and it's no, you know, putting a pause and everything, is moving forward to make sure that they get the best of everything. So I would have to say that, you know, moving forward.
And we have the ability right now to give them the best.
We need to just go ahead and move forward on this. And y'all know I'm one of them board members that would like to say I need to know more about it. But I skimmed through the book because I got my book today, but I did skim through the book because I haven't had time to come over here to get it. But I did look through it, and it is some intense stuff. And now that I have a couple of days, I can sit down and really go through it. But I think we really need to move forward. And I didn't even look at the stuff for Phoenix. I was looking at the, you know, the bigger schools and stuff that needs to happen. So,
And
yeah.
to your point, I think when we go to the committee meetings, this binder's got to come with you. Because we're going to be wanting to go back and forth. Like I said, it's a resource for us to make sure we're making the best decisions based on in-depth information. So, you know, that's the hope.
And with that being said, can I get a roller school bag? Because that thing is heavy.
I'm leaving here. I just need it digitally. That would be great.
So we can work on that.
And Miss Sonia gave us another one.
Yes.
So we got two to bring home.
Yes, I know, assembly.
So no, I mean, it's imperative that we get the ball rolling.
So it seems like when my talking about deferring, looks like things are going to move forward. I'm still going to abstain, but I would love to have an electronic copy that I can look at quickly. I requested it before.
I
I'm
have
humbly
one.
requesting it again.
I'll go upstairs and get it for you. Thank you.
And if we do approve this tonight, it goes out to the public so they can actually see it.
Yes,
'cause
sir.
I haven't
They-
shared mine with anybody.
They can give you feedback on what they see. Oh, those are some recommendations. I agree. I don't agree. Or it enables us to open it up to do that, you know, and I'll be happy. We can post it on the website so, you know, people will have access to it as well. But I don't believe it's appropriate to do that because it's not approved by you.
That's right.
So,
All right, board members, any other questions, comments, concerns? Administration? Audience? All right, let's go ahead and vote on this matter. All those in favor?
I will make a motion to approve the master plan as presented.
And I'll
Thought we already
second.
No.
No.
Oh, we did to open for discussion, yes, I
I got a
apologize.
bio break. I'm back on my game
I
now.
apologize.
All right.
I just wanted to give you a chance to prove me wrong.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the master plan as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? As mentioned before, I will abstain from that vote. Motion carries 8-0-1. Thank you, board members. And once again, thank you to CSRS for all y'all have done, because looks like I gotta play some catch up here reading through this thing, but I will.
I will tell you.
and remember, it's a resource. As a reader, we approach
right.
it as a nonfiction text. That's an information text.
I will not
Fourth
comment on
grade.
that. All right, moving on. We have 4.05, discussion and or action in regard to approval of ad hoc and standing committee reports. That comes from me. They're in your board packet. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look over them. Any questions or comment, or excuse me, we need a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Turner.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Linder. Any comments or questions from the board about the committee reports? Administration? Audience? All right, seeing that we have no questions or comments about these, let's go ahead and call it to a vote. All those in favor of approving the ad hoc and standing committee reports signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have discussion and or action. This is 4.06. Discussion and or action in regard to approval of minutes from the June 5th, 2025 regular board meeting. Nico Tesvich, board president. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Sauer.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Discussion from anybody up here? Anybody in the middle?
Yes, sir.
Anybody over there? All right. Hearing no questions or comments, let's go ahead and call that to question. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, 4.07, lastly for this section. 4.07, discussion and or action in regard to approval of the Plaquemines Gazette as the official journal of the Plaquemines Parish School Board for a period of 1 year, beginning July 4th, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026. Nico Tesvich, board president. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Linder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Arborough. Discussion, board, questions? Administration?
No, sir.
Audience? All right, looks like we'll go ahead and call this to question to approve the Gazette as our official journal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
Motion carries with an 8-1 vote. Now we have a chunk of information items. We don't need to make any votes here or anything. All those items are in your board packet for you to approve or you to take a look at. Of course, if you have any questions, ask Budget and Finance or the superintendent. Let me go back to my agenda here. All right, section 6, information and announcements. Dr. Ritz, 6.01, update on Assembly.
So what I wanted to do is start something new at the end of each board meeting. If we could pass that out, please. I think, when we get to this part, it's always, does anybody have any final announcements? So what I'm gonna try and do is condense with some big announcements, call it the final focus at the end of a board meeting, just to give the public some important dates and that you will know as well. So just 4 quick things before our next board meeting that I think is important for you to know. Our transition at the Assembly platform for the board policies has begun. Ms. Jamie Sauer is chair of the actual policy committee, which is a strange little connection. Forethought is recently sold, actually, to a relative of Mr. Drake, believe it or not, that I had the privilege of talking to. And they are restructuring their company. They're actually going through a transition and trying to figure out what's best, because they're hearing from a bunch of superintendents. But we're moving forward to continue our obligation and our work with the LSBA's actual policies. So there's a process of that, and we've got a scope and a sequence, if you will, that we're going to address at each committee meeting. The goal is to be done by May. In order for that to happen, Ms. Sauer sent out a lovely email to all committee members that you are to come to the actual meetings prepared and have already read those policies for your input to make sure we keep the pace. She was quite detailed in her email and stern that you will come.
I don't read with emotion, so I didn't know that you was Ms. James.
I believe we were thinking it was going to take us 9 months.
9 months till next May.
Next May.
Next May, my apologies.
No, you're fine. You said
Yes,
it.
we're hoping to have it all done, so it'll be 9 months starting for August.
July.
July committee, but yes, July committee meeting, yes, gotcha. And then to approve it at the final board meeting. The way we spoke to Ms. Step in whenever Ms. Pope, Dr. Pope, it was we would go to committee and would make the recommendations for those particular policies. Then you would collect all those motions and encapsulate them at the end in May. So each one will be a separate item on the May agenda as we go through.
So we'll approve it all at once instead of monthly.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jennifer, per your request, I'll send that email to the whole board too tomorrow, just so you guys can see.
So we sat down to the crosswalk, and the crosswalk is what's going to guide us between current policy and the actual LSBA's policy. So I believe Ms. Sauer and Ms. Shelley had already met for about 2 or 3 hours already in this room last week to get on pace with it. So I want to say that, we're moving forward and staying true to what requests were when I first took office to make sure our policies are updated and current, okay? The next thing is on July 21st, we'll have 3 committee meetings: land and construction, finance, and policy committee meetings. All the meetings will begin at 5:30. As usual, we try to put 15 minutes apart, just making sure we don't have to pause and stop, if we finish one particular meeting soon. Number 3, we're energized to kick off the 25-26 school year. Y'all, by the time we come back for our next meeting, school begins. It'll be the night before the kids come back. So I just want to make sure that you know some great things coming up. Last year, we started something very beneficial to us as far as bringing all the leadership teams, every member of that team to the multipurpose building. All of them, it was about 60 people. And on our second annual Administrative Institute will be July 22nd and 24th at Bell Chase Primary School. If you want to stop by and wave and say hello and come on in and hear what we're doing, you're welcome to, okay? Also, on Monday, August 4th, please, I sent you a text message. If you can find time to come, please do. That is the day that all the staff members, teachers, and I'm even asking bus drivers now, every staff member to come and join us. We're taking on an endeavor with Capturing Kids' Hearts. It's building culture, a positive culture in the schools. It's building on relationships between the adults and the students. There was a speaker during one of those professional developments, and I had so many emails saying they want this Mr. Joyer. They want this gentleman to come back and start our year off. So based on their recommendations, the staff, we met with Mr. Joyer, and he's coming on the first day. So we're energized about that. We're excited. So come on August 4th, and we can introduce, let your face be seen by everybody that you're representing in the school system as well. And then lastly, August 5th through the 7th, all the employees will be reporting back to their school campuses. And then on Friday the 8th, that's the favorite day. That's the day when all students in grades 1 to 12 show up on campuses. They come in their nice they have tans, they look like they've just got a pool, new school bags, new socks. They'll be walking through the doors. on the 8th. So I just want to give you a little update. I'll provide these for you each meeting, just a little final focus. Okay? August 4th, 8 o'clock. 8 a.m. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So what's the time on the 22nd and the 24th?
Generally 8 o'clock to 3:30.
Wait, you want to say on the 21st?
No, you're welcome to come out and say hello to everybody. You're welcome to come. You don't have to. But the 4th, we really want you there. On the 4th will be a good day for you to come. But just letting you know. Any questions with that?
All right. Any other information items?
I do. We have our uniform drive this Tuesday. It's in cooperation with Kiwanis, and we did all the collection. We got a lot of really good donations, and there's a ton of them back there, and we're going to sort through them, and we have a lot of help from Kiwanis. It's going to be from 5 to 8 p.m. Here at the central office on Woodland Highway. And we'd love to see everybody come out and grab it. There's a lot of brand new things in there too, so it's not all, they're all gently used. So we'd like to have you come out for that. And that's for the Belchase High School, Belchase Middle School, Belchase Elementary, and Belchase Primary. But there is a group of moms down the road who are also starting the initiative also. So they are in the collection process. So if you have uniforms, they would really appreciate them. And they've been very vocal on
Social
Facebook.
media.
And it makes my heart very happy seeing that the initiative's spreading around. And that's it.
Cool. Good stuff.
That was good.
Anybody else?
Back to school drive at the Belchase Auditorium.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This weekend.
Saturday.
From 12 to 3. Of course, we have no ferry, so no about.
12 to 3, you can go and get
We
school
don't have no
uniform.
ferry.
School
We
uniform.
don't have no ferry
school.
down the road that day, and we will not have a ferry in Belchase.
We got a
that day.
helicopter.
It's for
Get a
school
hustle
bags, supplies, and
Yeah, the ferry will
physicals.
be out in Palmahash, and the ferry will be out in Belchase on Saturday.
Can
They
they-
sent out an email, a message. So maybe you can collect some bags and bring them to the East Bank for those kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
Because
I think
it's
it's
gonna be
daily.
hard to try to get over here on Saturday.
I'll text him just to let him know.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all I have.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank Ms. Donna for the excellent food we had tonight. Unfortunately, we were busy doing things, so not all of us could go and enjoy some of it. But I did get one of those brisket sandwiches, and it was fantastic, other than the pickles that were on it. But otherwise, it was very good. So I want to thank her for providing the meal for us tonight. Our next meeting is going to be right back here Thursday, August 7th, 2025, 6 p.m. at Plaquemines Parish School Board, Woodland Central Office, Room 100, 1484 Woodland Highway, Belchase, Louisiana 70037. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Sauer made the motion,
Longest
Ms.
meeting
Lindner
for you.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at
Dare.
I oppose.
9:30 p.m.
You lost.